Please be seated. Good morning. I'm Sarah Davis, the Dean of St. John's College in Santa Fe. And on behalf of us all here at St. John's and President Walter Sterling, I want to welcome you, all of you here and those of you who are joining us online through our live stream. Welcome to the 59th commencement of this campus in the 329th year of the college. We're so happy to have you here with us to celebrate our graduating students. The GI is a special and important part of the college. You all remind us that this education is a lifelong endeavor. You come to us from different walks of life, different moments in your lives, all of you committed to reading great works and asking important questions together, because you understand that these activities are deeply enriching and important for human beings. In that, you set a wonderful example for our undergraduate community of education for its own sake. So I want to thank you for that. You should be very proud of what you have accomplished. I'm now going to turn it over to David Carl, the Associate Dean for Graduate Programs, to present our awards and prizes. I do want to note, for those of you joining us in person today, there's water under the Weigel portal, so stay hydrated, and welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and I want to echo Dean Davis's welcome of our online participants. Several of the awards that I will be announcing today are received by participants who are attending online. So, in anticipation of extending congratulations to all of you for your good work in both the Eastern Classics and Master of Arts and Liberal Arts programs, I would like to present the following awards. For his essay in the Eastern Classics seminar entitled Unraveling Essence in Zhuangzi, Jack Kessler, attending online. For her Eastern Classics preceptorial essay, Sacrificed to the Sacrifice, a close reading of the story of Sargakas, Lauren DeLucci, attending online. For his Eastern Classics essay, honorable mention to Sakuntala's Second Path, Jack Kessler. For the Eastern Classics Chinese Language Tutorial Translation Prize, attending online, Enk Od Batsorig. For her Sanskrit translation of Kumasamba Baba, verse 2.1 through 4 of Kalidasa, Deanna Moss. And while she's on stage, Ms. Moss, for her GI Eastern Classics tutorial essay, Eternal Self, an exploration of sight, speech, and understanding in chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita, Deanna Moss. For her Sanskrit translation of Kalidasa, verses 2.1 through 4, honorable mention to Ms. Sandra Schulman. For his spring Eastern Classics seminar essay, Interpreting the Signs in Kalidasa's The Recognition of Shakuntala, Timothy Knowlton. For her spring Eastern Classics seminar essay, Sacred Separation, Diana Rogalski, attending online. For her Eastern Classics spring preceptorial essay, Weaving the World, Reflections on the Poetic Art of the No Theater, Lauren DeLucci, attending online. And 2 prizes for students in the Master of Arts and Liberal Arts program. For his spring preceptorial essay, Melville's Astrological Theme, a reflection on a hidden key, Manasseh Israel. And finally, for his spring preceptorial essay, Ishmael's Awakening Sexuality, Michael Fusco. Apparently attending online as well. Up. Where? Apparently he didn't know he was receiving an award. Come on up, Mr. Fusco. I like to keep these things under wraps until the exciting last moment. Congratulations. Congratulations to all this year's prize winners. And now it is my pleasure to introduce today's graduation speaker, my friend and colleague, Julie Rehard, who, after a long term of service at St. John's, will be retiring at the end of the summer semester. That's today. Today is the end of the summer semester, so Ms. Rehard also deserves congratulations, and I want to extend my gratitude for her for one last act of service to the college. Ms. Rehard came to St. John's in 1993 after postgraduate work at the now relocated Grundy Library of the Dibner Institute for the History of Science and Technology. That library housed over 37,000 volumes, including one of the world's most complete sets of the works of Isaac Newton, along with strong holdings in color theory. making it an ideal place for Ms. Rehart to pursue her interest in the contrasting views of Newton and Goethe on light and color. In 1996, Ms. Rehart took a 2-year leave from St. John's to live in Taiwan and teach at Providence University in Taichung. There she immersed herself in Chinese language and culture with the aim of returning to direct courses in what was then the newly established Eastern Classics graduate program. Over the years, she has led discussions in both our graduate programs and is proud to say that with having led a class in senior math during the 2023 to 24 academic year, she has now completed the entire St. John's undergraduate curriculum, as well as teaching extensively in both of our graduate programs. I should add that she has also been leading singing for our JFs and interested graduate students this summer. On a personal note, I want to thank Ms. Rehard for her work as the goalie of the St. John's College hockey team, which is a real thing. I've been told that she is also an intimidating combatant in kickboxing. And for those of you who have had the pleasure of being classed with her, it will come to no surprise that she says after retiring from St. John's, she intends to pursue a career in cage fighting in Michigan. So, with that, please welcome Ms. Rehard to the stage.
Thank you. I congratulate you all on your completion of the MA in either Eastern Classics or the Western program in Liberal Arts at St. John's College. When I first thought about it, it seemed it would have been much easier to address an audience composed solely of Western program graduates or Eastern program graduates. Then I could limit myself to a narrower range of references. But this assumes that the programs are supplemental to each other, that they can't be part of a greater cultural unity. Like a good St. John's student, I questioned this. After all, what we call Western culture was, after a certain historical point, an increasingly homogeneous blending of European and Hebrew legacies. St. John's undergraduate program deals with this by focusing on Greek and Latin texts up till the point, or slightly after, that Judaism begins to exert an influence. There is then a reversion in time to the beginning of Hebrew literature. Attention to European developments only begins again after the Jewish scriptures and the New Testament have been considered. However, at a later date, precisely the same phenomenon occurs in the Western tradition regarding Asian literature from farther to the east. At a certain moment, Central and South and East Asia begin to have an impact on Western thought. It would be hard to establish a definite demarcation for this. There were cross influences from at least the time of Alexander's entry into India, and arguably earlier. But it was in the great age of European exploration, the 15th through 18th centuries, that notice began to be taken of other cultures' capacity to do some things similar to what the Europeans had been doing. Specifically, it became apparent that Asians could think and write. Oops, sorry. Gottfried Wilhelm von Leibniz, I'm informed, was an early aficionado of Chinese thinkers, especially the I Ching, and of Fatsang and Huayan Buddhism. It has even been suggested that some of his own work might be construed as plagiarism. I'm not sufficiently familiar with the issue to say much about this. I do know that by the late 18th century and increasingly in the 19th century, Asian thinkers were having a noticeable impact on Westerners. One particular writer comes near and dear to my heart. When I first arrived at the college, we were still reading Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's Faust, Part 1 only, in the senior year of seminar. Goethe worked on Faust throughout his life, starting around 1772 and continuing until his death in 1832. The beginning of his work on the tragedy coincided with the Western discovery of an Indian playwright, Kalidasa. Shakuntala, or The Fatal Ring, Sir William Jones' translation of Kalidasa's play, was first published in Calcutta, followed by European publications in 1790, 1792, and 1796. A German version by Georg Forster was published in 1791. Goethe was enchanted. He published an epigram about Shakuntala in 1791. It goes like this: "Will you have the blossoms of spring and the fruits that are later in season? Will you have charms and delights? Will you have strength and support? Will you with one short word encompass the earth and the heaven? I name you Shakuntala, and all these things are said." In tribute to Kalidasa's play, Goethe added a theatrical convention from the prologue of Shakuntala to Faust, which he called Prelude in the Theater. Many students in the Western program puzzled over this. Many Goethe scholars have puzzled over the transformation of the drama's heroine Gretchen in part 2 of Faust. I will name you Shakuntala, and all these things are said. That might be oversimplifying things. In any respect, Goethe's works had a strong influence on the son of one of Weimar's most important literary figures of the time, Johanna Schopenhauer. Madame Schopenhauer, who wrote fiction, travelogues, and biography, was the first German woman to publish books without a pseudonym. And from the late 1810s to the early 1830s, her works turned her into the most famous woman author in Germany. Goethe often frequented her salons. Johanna introduced her son, Arthur, to Goethe, and the young man quickly became an admirer. The binding tie between the two, by the way, is the theory of color, which, though meaning different things to each man, united them in their opposition to Newton and certain features of modernist science. Schopenhauer certainly was the most prominent non-Buddhist strongly affined to Buddhism. If I were to take the results of my philosophy as the standard of truth, he said, I would have to consider Buddhism the finest of all religion. Schopenhauer once boasted that his world as will and representation was an entirely new and thus pure expression of the wisdom once taught by Buddha. True to her usual form, Johanna Schopenhauer quickly chastised her, quote, irritating, overbearing son. No one wants to be improved or enlightened by you, she said. Such an insignificant individual as you still are. Mothers, yes, yeah. Still, reading Schopenhauer made a dramatic, so to speak, change in Richard Wagner's theories of music and opera. It served as the major inspiration behind his later works. Wagner considered at one point doing an opera on the life of the Buddha, but he may have decided that Tristan, Die Meistersinger, Parsifal, and the concluding installments of the Ring cycle presented all he had to communicate on the issue. Both Schopenhauer and Wagner greatly influenced the young Friedrich Nietzsche. And after his intellectual and personal breaks with the two, both remained conspicuous obsessions throughout the remainder of his work, serving as antitheses to define his positions. And of course, anyone shaped by Nietzsche is therefore affected at two removes by Buddhism, if only in negative reaction. Beyond the German encounter with Asian thought, it is well known that Ralph Waldo Emerson read and was significantly influenced by writings from the East, particularly the Bhagavad Gita. Emerson's journals from 1845 indicate this, and he famously stated that he owed a magnificent day to the Bhagavad Gita. His concept of the oversoul demonstrates a clear influence from the Gita's teachings, especially its non-dualistic perspective. The American encounter with Buddhism began in 1844 with Henry David Thoreau's translation of a passage from a French edition of the Lotus Sutra. Discussion of European phenomenologist reception and incorporation of elements of Eastern thought is something for which I don't have an adequate background. Suffice to say that in reading Heidegger, it is difficult sometimes not to detect at least a hint of influence. This may be parallel development, but there are those who insist on a direct connection. Cases are even apparently made, plausibly or not, that Husserl is the conduit for this. Obviously, there have been countless others in the 19th, 20th, and 21st centuries who explicitly claimed or claimed to be transmitting Asian wisdom. And in the general culture, there are multitudes who identify with one or another Asian religion or school of thought. Is this an argument for structuring a program in Western literature so that the same sort of historical revision or reversion takes place as in St. John's current undergraduate curriculum? Should we follow European readings up to the 17th or 18th century and then backtrack to integrate Eastern readings before proceeding further? Oh, okay. Okay then, no wait, that's not, okay. This would be a difficult sell, maybe. Short of recommending that some formal, structured acknowledgement be given to the role of Eastern works on Western literature, it does seem reasonable to urge individuals to familiarize themselves with both canons, to make this a personal project. It might be mentioned, if only as a side issue, that things said in one corpus are often relevant to and helpful in thinking about other issues raised in the other corpus, even if there has been no direct influence or in either direction. I had originally thought to end by having us listen to what is usually referred to as the Liebestod from the end of Wagner's Tristan and Isolde. As the address grew, though, it became apparent there wouldn't be enough time, so I'm going to sing it for, no, I'm just kidding. There wouldn't be enough time. This, too, will have to be left to your individual personal initiative. It seemed appropriate, however. You have fulfilled the requirements for degrees, and this graduation is an acknowledgement of that, a formal finale. Coincidentally, I am retiring this summer, and this address is my last formal act as a tutor. It should be said that Franz Liszt was responsible for transferring the title Liebestod to Isolde's final aria when he published his piano transcription of it. Wagner used Liebestod, love, death, to refer to the prelude setting, the sense of multiple deaths in the opera. But the song of Isolde, Mild und leise, Wagner called the Verklärung, the metaphysical transformation or enlightenment of Isolde, the glorious rapture of the universal spiritual realm, both told in words and, more importantly, thematically in music that swirls and builds to powerful crescendo. Isolde sings, "Friends, look, don't you feel and see it? Echoes fondly around me ringing, ever clearer, wafting around me. Are they waves of gentle breezes? Are they clouds of gladdening sweet fragrance? Are they, as they swell and murmur around me, shall I breathe them? Shall I listen? Shall I sip them, plunge beneath them, breathe my last amid their sweet smell? In the billowy surge, in the gush of sound, in the world spirit's infinite awe, to drown now, sinking, unconscious, void of all thought, supreme delight." There is no sorrow or pain here. It is pure eternal beauty, a transcendence of individuation, distinction, and form. As jazz pianist Alan Shapiro explains in his examination of the piece, Wagner leaves us with a feeling of tremendous achievement, of soaring and freedom. It seems all obstacles are overcome. And then comes the highest note, C sharp, outside the chord, that wants to pull back down to B, the home key. The orchestra and Isolde gradually descend, and the music comes to an E minor chord, a moment of darkness. Wagner seems to be saying, in your achievement, don't forget the struggle. Finally, after Isolde's last notes, an octave leap from F sharp to F sharp, a single oboe plays a high D sharp, the major third of the key. The full orchestra joins it, and the music resolves on the pure B major chord it has been aiming at from the beginning. It is because the struggle is honored that the achievement is both believable and so satisfying. Think of your time here as having been shaped towards, Think of your time here as having been shaped towards some end, some telos, and consider that that end may not yet have arrived. There is more to explore. West and East must meet, and perhaps Middle East? I leave us with a moment from West Eastern Divan, Goethe's poetic tribute to the Persian poet Hafiz. Distance does not make you falter. Now, arriving in magic, flying, and finally insane for the light, you are the butterfly and you are gone. And as so long as you haven't experienced this, to die and to grow, you are only a troubled guest on the dark earth. May we all keep growing. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ms. Rehart. Before we proceed, I see there's an interloper in the audience, someone who's attended all classes but has not submitted any written work. Ms. Prickett, if you're going to have Ms. Pickles graduate, she's going to have to submit her preceptorial essays first.
Okay. Let the candidates for the degree of Master of Arts rise. Dean Carl, I present to you the candidates for the degree of Master of Arts stand before you.
Dean Davis. I, the Associate Dean for Graduate Programs and Literal Education at St. John's in Santa Fe, bear witness that these individuals have applied themselves among us to the programs of study in the Graduate Institute, and that they have successfully completed the program in Eastern Classics or in Liberal Arts.
We, the president, the deans, and the tutors of St. John's College in Santa Fe, New Mexico, bear witness that these individuals have applied themselves among us to the program of studies in the Graduate Institute of Liberal Education, that they have successfully completed their program in the Eastern Classics and Liberal Arts, and finally, that in this public session, on this 8th day of August, 2025, they have reached the degree of Master of Arts. In witness of this, we have, on this aforesaid day and year, subscribed our names to these letters, which have been confirmed by the Great Seal of the College. By command of the Board of Visitors and Governors of St. John's College, I admit you to the degree of Master of Arts.
The candidates for the degree of Master of Arts will come forward as each name is called.
Pilar Jade Ayala, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Kasia Alexandria Boretsky, Annapolis, Maryland. John Vincent Castaldo, Brooklyn, New York. Thomas Russell Chrisman, Maplewood, New Jersey. Lauren Elizabeth DeLucchi, Bismarck, North Dakota, attending online. Stephen R. Fitzpatrick, Hartsdale, New York, attending online. Manasseh David Israel, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Joseph Lankford Jekyll, Austin, Texas. Timothy Wade Knowlton, Victoria, British Columbia. Joshua David Lee, Houston, Texas. Justin Kipling Lowe, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Samuel Takano McGee, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Sarah Josefa Mackenzie, Villers, France. Deanna Elaine Moss, Portland, Oregon. Michael Edward Peterson, Dallas, Texas. Haley Thurston Prickett, Newport, California. And friend. John David Ross, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Sandra Schulman, Santa Rosa, California. Kaylee Alethea Steele, Annapolis, Maryland. And this year, we have two recipients of the Liberal Arts Education Certificate. Warren A. Reardon, Iowa City, Iowa, attending online. And Michael Macy, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Please join me in congratulating all of this year's graduates from the St. John Santa Fe Graduate Institute. This is the chance to throw your hats at each other if you so choose. Or just in the air. We're going to pause for a photo opportunity. In closing, I would like to invite everyone to join us for a lunch to celebrate and again congratulate our graduates. That will be held at 12 o'clock today in the Student Activity Center, which is about a 2 to 3 minute walk down here. There will be staff members available to direct you if you're new to the campus. And that lunch will include an opportunity to toast and celebrate each other, the students and the faculty who have taught you. So congratulations. I hope to see you at lunch later today.